Today on Diksha, we talk about beliefs. Everyone has a particular set of beliefs. We function on beliefs, and it is almost impossible to stand up or to exist without having a firm set of beliefs that guide our life. On today's program, I'm going to look at one of the main dangers of having beliefs. And a little bit of a disclaimer here is that I am not saying not to have beliefs or don't believe anything or don't believe in anything, because beliefs are a useful tool in the same way that all tools have a warning label, all machinery has a warning label, warning of if it is misused, it can have dangerous results. And the very same is with beliefs, that beliefs are a useful tool, they are necessary for existence, but in the same way, there should be a warning that the abuse of beliefs, misuse of beliefs, or wrong engagement of beliefs is something that can be very dangerous to people. But before we get to that, let's look at how beliefs come about, or the process of believing, or why it occurs naturally to us as human beings. Because before we even think of analyzing our beliefs, we have to understand how we get them in the first place. So, naturally speaking, we must function, everything must function, and things function along a fixed pattern, a fixed way. There's the rules of nature, the rules of, for example, physics that we follow. Almost unwillingly or unknowingly, that we obey the rules of nature. So in our daily lives, for example, we will wake up at some point during the day, although sometimes we feel like we can sleep forever, we will wake up. When we wake up, we will get hungry, and when we get hungry and we consume things, we must excrete waste products from the body. And so the body follows a natural set of rules. And we function based on what we know, on what we understand in our daily lives. And this goes pretty well in terms of what we can control as human beings, based on what we know. Things we don't know, we believe to be a certain way, or we assume, or we make an educated guess on how things are. So this is where beliefs come from. They originate from the point of not knowing. So when we develop a belief in a particular, let's say, pattern of thought, and a belief in action, that if we practice something that we will gain a particular result, if we think a certain way that there's a certain result that will come, that is predicated on having a belief. And this is where the human being starts developing a belief system. And it's not taught. It's not something that is taught to us in school, that how to believe. We are taught what to believe, but not how to believe. That occurs naturally within us, which is as the human being grows and learns about nature and learns about things in nature, things in the environment, we develop assumptions about these things, and we project those assumptions into the future, which will give rise to the belief. So if I assume something works a certain way, and I expect a certain result from that assumption over a period of time, I develop a belief, which is assumption plus time. Now, the beliefs can be very basic. So when I use the word belief, I'm not speaking about religious belief or political beliefs or geographical beliefs. I'm talking about personally to you and to me as a human being. We develop assumptions in relation, direct relation to us. And those assumptions we put the most importance on. and then assumptions about secondary assumptions, for example, our environment, and then assumptions about the way things are in the world. And it is this three regions or sectors of belief that will dictate where we place learnt beliefs or superimposed beliefs on ourselves. So what I mean by that, quite simply, is that there are the beliefs that I myself will develop on my own based on the assumptions I make about my environment, about nature. And those beliefs are personal beliefs. And I'm sure if you sit for 5 minutes, you can think about some personal beliefs that you have, whether it's about relationships or about work or about life. You will have your own personal beliefs that were not taught you. And then we have the environmental beliefs, which are directly from the people we are around, our direct environment in terms of, for example, living conditions, working conditions. We develop certain beliefs. And then there are the social beliefs, or let's say the outside beliefs that are taught to us, that we learn from experience. So this is the helpfulness, this is the nature of having beliefs. And like I said before, they are tools, they are part of the environment that help us. Now, what is the benefit of a belief? The benefit of a belief, it allows us to plan for what we don't know. So I have what I know, which is knowledge, and I have what I don't know, which is belief. And I can apply knowledge in a way to achieve a certain result, which we might call an educated calculation. And there are things that I don't know, which I must assume and calculate based on that assumption, and that is my belief. So those are the 2 points. Now, along the road of having beliefs, we come to the point where we must prioritize, because we have many beliefs. We must prioritize. And in that prioritization, it is totally up to me as the individual to say what I am going to live my life based on in terms of beliefs. So we are forgetting the knowledge part, which is what I know and as established as being real. They are the things that I don't know and I assume. This is where beliefs get dangerous, and dangerous in terms of, if we misuse it, it can cause harm, which is I can base my assumptions and beliefs on a totally unfeasible assumption or goal, assumed goal. I can base my assumptions and beliefs on something that is social suicide, let's say. That if I continue following that line of thinking based on the assumption, I will end up worse off than I am now. So and this is where it comes in that we learn, or we are taught, social norms, social beliefs, accepted beliefs, where we have positive reinforcement of ideas, we have negative reinforcement of ideas, because this is where we become socially viable in terms of having the assumptions in our head that will take us forward, and not assuming things that will make us outcasts of society or lead us to failures. So this is where the individual needs to be in touch with themselves. And by in touch with themselves, I mean there is obviously, when we form a belief, we do so in the interest of being happy or satisfied or contented later on. And the basis of that is, the base idea is that I want to be happy, or I want to be satisfied. So then obviously the assumptions I make and the beliefs I make and the plans I make based on those beliefs must do that. It must satisfy my desire. And obviously, you can argue that, well, some people never really think about that. Some people have no interest in being happy, for example. Some people, they are very contented in being depressed. And that's another issue. But to the majority, the beliefs that we hold on to are intended to give us happiness or make us satisfied in life. And so, me, as the individual, I must be willing to be honest with myself and sit down and think what I want to be happy, or at least feel what I need to be happy, or where I want to put my energies into. And this will guide us into probably a safer, straight line way of thinking, or a straight line way of mapping out our belief system. Now notice I have not touched on any particular belief system, because that's not the point of the discussion. The point of the discussion is not to pinpoint a particular belief system or assumption or anything of those natures, whether it's physical or mental, psychological or spiritual. What I am focused on is where beliefs come from, when do they develop, and how do I guide myself or seek guidance in developing those beliefs that will become knowledge, which is the next point I want to make in regards to beliefs, is that a belief is made because you don't know. If you knew, it will be knowledge. So the idea of holding on to a belief lifelong or for your whole entire life is somewhat silly, in that the idea of the assumption of the belief is to realize a goal in life, is to become it's a sort of a band-aid until knowledge arrives. And although we may not think of it like that, basically that's what it is. Even if we take the most profound belief that takes lifetimes or takes a great amount of years and practice to realize as being true, there is a point where the belief comes true. It becomes a reality. And it's probably a good gauge if we want to figure out the nature of our belief, or whether our belief takes us to a goal, is if we can actually visualize that goal that the belief points to. Because this is the second part of it being detrimental or dangerous to our life, is holding on to a belief or having a belief that leads nowhere. That we believe something, we defend it, we are adamant about it, but at the end of the day, that belief is nothing, it's a dead end. And then so as an individual, we travel willingly and for many years, using a lot of energy to arrive at a dead end that doesn't go anywhere. So it's just to point out a very important a mental note, for example, metaphorically speaking, that the belief itself should be in the interest of acquiring knowledge. And that's a basic template. Because the things that we are sure about, or the things that we know, that we plan based on what we know, are the things that we don't have to worry about, because we know it's true. So if I form a set of beliefs, and just as a simple mathematical equation, if 30% of the things I base my life on, or my day, I base my day on 30% of the things that I know and 70% of the things that I believe. And at the end of the day, the 70% of things I believe were dead ends. It didn't bear any fruit. It basically wasted my day. That would have a psychological effect on me. That would make me feel a little bit depressed, or probably try to overthink, or probably I feel like a failure because the beliefs I had did not bear fruit. Because the beliefs I had did not bear fruit, that means 70% of my day was wasted. Now, if we transfer that to a lifetime or a generation, or a set period of time, we can see where the feeling of emptiness arises. In that, deep down, based on what I feel in myself as what I need to be happy, I know I am not achieving anything. I know I am not reaching anywhere. And psychologically speaking, that will have an effect on us. So it may sound trivial if we are young people, or if we are still in the educational system, to spend a couple of years, for example, thinking about something that doesn't bear fruit. But if, as a 40-year-old or 50-year-old, when we reflect on life, that we realize that we believe something that we held on to for 30 years or 40 years that did not bear fruit. 40 years is a lot of time to waste 3/4 of. So it's in our best interest to streamline our belief system. It's in our best interest to look at the things we believe and look at the things we assume compared to the things that we know, and develop, based on that, beliefs that we plan on acquiring the knowledge for, rather than hold on to beliefs that never come true. And this template can be applied to all beliefs. So I'm not talking about religious belief or spiritual belief or anything like that. It could be your belief about money, or your belief about marriage and relationships, or your belief about children, or whatever you don't know as yet and assume is a belief. So that's my basic thought process on the belief formation system and the maintenance system of beliefs. And it's really a sort of primer into self-inquiry, to look at what we believe, or why we believe it, or is it something that I want to hold on to as a belief that will take me forward in life or make me happy. All these are things that it's not about having a nice conversations about what we share as common beliefs, but rather to sit and inquire within ourselves whether the things I believe will make me happy or make me satisfied in my life. So I hope my short presentation on beliefs, and mainly focused on the dangers of belief, shed some light on how to move forward in terms of gaining knowledge in life. And once again, I'd like to thank you for joining me on Diksha, right here on Sankhya Television, the first Hindu TV station in Trinidad and Tobago, and your #1 choice for inspirational, cultural, and spiritual programming.